Welcome back, one and all, to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. It's a video episode. Go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're back on a call, real time banter, back and forth, all that good stuff. Today is Sunday, April 13th. If all goes to plan, I think this will be releasing on Monday, the 14th. We've had a number of matches, though, to talk about. Two draws over the weekend, and then prior to that, Chelsea in the Conference League getting a masterful 3-0 victory. Yeah, Dark Classicar for Bayern Munich. We got Inter this week in the Champions League, and yeah, and then Chelsea drew Ipswich earlier today. I'm fresh in off of a flight back home from Phoenix, so I might be a little groggy or weary, but I promise that's not going to affect the commentary that we give to you.
Yeah, it was a big weekend in the soccer world. Huge weekend in sports in general. If you're a golf fan with the Masters, if you're a NBA fan with the season wrapping up, but just in general, a big week. So lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about indeed. Do you want to start us off with just a quick mention about Chelsea's Conference League 3-0 victory? We got a Noni brace and then Tyrique George scoring in that one. Um, yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk about that before we jump into the weekend's matches.
Yeah, a nice victory for Chelsea. Thought it would have given them some nice momentum and positivity heading into the weekend, but Tyrique George scoring his first Chelsea goal, always a great thing off of Reece James, longer shot, then he puts it in off the rebound. So that was really cool to see. Got a lot of different guys some minutes in that one, which is always good. You're on the road in Warsaw, Poland in that leg one, and huge to come out of it with a 3-0 victory. I'd normally say you can basically breeze on through now to the semifinal, but with Chelsea and the way they're playing right now, you just never know. I wouldn't put it past them to blow it. Um, but yeah, no, it was huge. Noni did score that brace, which was awesome. And the Conference League might be what we're just looking forward to now as Chelsea fans because the league is the league at this point. So we'll hang our hats on that for now.
Yeah, I caught most of that match, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a disappointing first half. I'm not sure if it went into halftime 0-0, but I just remember being really disappointed um, in that first half, and then also impressed, I will say, with the Warsaw fans. All their pyro, their smoke, they were just loud the entire match. Got to be cool for them to have it seem like Chelsea Football Club coming to their stadium for that one. So, but yeah, as far as I remember, the second half, some subs were made, and Chelsea just looked a lot more electric in the attack.
Yeah, first half, as you mentioned, not much, and then good for them to take care of business in the second half. Clearly the better team. And, that Warsaw team, Legia Warsaw, are like fifth in the Polish league, so you really shouldn't mess around with a team like that, even in a crazy atmosphere. Not much else to say. I think these Conference League games, I just try not to analyze too much because the competition is worse, a lot worse in some cases. And sometimes Maresca is rotating, so it's tough to really say. If anything, you can maybe take it as a reflection of how Maresca likes to do things. But yeah, ultimately, it's a nice leg one victory, so I'm certainly happy with that.
Yeah, you take that back to the bridge. That's not a bad thing for Chelsea. Should we go ahead and start talking about their classic car, or do you have anything else you wanted to mention about that match? That seems like it was weeks ago at this point.
Yeah, let's talk about Bayern because it actually was one of the best matches I've seen in terms of a Bayern match in total, whether you're looking at it from a neutral perspective or otherwise. You might be disappointed if you're a Bayern fan, but in terms of one half of football, that was arguably a ton of fun. So
Yeah, another match that went into halftime 0-0 and was just an electric back and forth roller coaster of a match in the second half. Very open in the second half. Although I will say the first half was not without its spectacle. It wasn't without its chances, that's for sure. But yeah, why don't I start with this one? Obviously, we mentioned at the top it was a 2-2 draw. I'll run down the lineup the company threw out for this one. Not a bad lineup given the options. Vincent Kompany's very, very limited at this point with the injuries that Bayern has with who he can even roll out there. But you had Jonas Erbig in between the sticks. Another not bad performance by Erbig, in my opinion. Um, he has a lot to learn yet. He's still a young keeper. He certainly is not. I don't think he's communicating very well with the back line, but I think this ragtag, jumbled up back line that's just thrown together isn't really communicating well in general outside of Eric Dyer. Um, and I think Connie Limer's a pretty good communicator and a regular starter as well. But um, you know, I don't want to throw that all on Urbig, but it's definitely clear that this team, this defense doesn't play the same, obviously, as they do when Neuer's out there. He just instills this level of confidence and bravery in the defense, in really the whole squad. But yeah, not bad on Urbig overall. I don't think the goals were necessarily his fault. Another match where I felt like he couldn't have done a lot more to save these goals, and there are a lot of characteristics about how he plays that I do like. So, again, it wasn't horrible from him, but he's still learning. He's still such a young keeper. And then, yeah, I mentioned Limer was there at right back. Not Limer's best match, not his worst match, I would say. The center backs, Eric Dyer and Kim Min-jae. Kim had a horrible mistake that we'll talk about that led directly to a goal. Thought he was having an all right match up until that point. But, I've been talking about this for weeks. The guy is so injured. I mean, he's just battling out there. And unfortunately, I think you know, his fitness physically as well as mentally is just leading to these dumb mistakes. So it is what it is there. You had Stanisic at left back. He was probably the best defender, I would say, of the day. You could have given that to Dyer, but Stanisic is just going to be solid back there. He's obviously more comfortable making runs into the offensive area of the pitch on the right hand side, but he does a good job filling in at the left back role. And then the midfield was Kimmich and Goretzka. Not a bad day from them either. I thought they were both pretty solid, especially with how much they've been playing. They were maybe a little bit tired, but overall solid. And then the attack was Michael Olise. Thought it was one of Olise's down matches, one of his probably worst matches of the year. But the guy's been dynamite almost all year, so that's not saying he was god awful or anything. Thomas Muller at the 10. It was the right move to give him the start. It definitely gave the team a jolt of energy, and I just thought he was the best player on the day for Bayern. Leroy Sané at the left wing and Harry Kane at the 9. Underwhelming day from both Sané and Kane. I think both of them are showing a lot of fatigue as well.
Yeah, I thought it was a strong lineup for the most part. We were both happy to see Muller in there, especially in his last match with a Bayern kit against Dortmund. But if I take us back now, if you saw my TikTok or YouTube short to my three keys of the match, and you could say Bayern only accomplished one of those keys. And really it was your key that
I
you
was
had
gonna
sent
say,
me
yeah.
about Muller being the stud that he is. And then the other two, Elise playing consistent, didn't really happen. And then the back line being strong, which didn't really happen. So if you're only going to accomplish one out of three keys, you're not going to win the match because my keys are all that matters. And unfortunately for Bayern, that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you there. And, the thing about Mueller is obviously I talk about his characteristics that make him a good player and make him the right choice to start there. His creativity, his interpretation of space, his just perception of the entire pitch, his vision, his distribution, all that stuff. But the other thing about Mueller right now is, and this is in my opinion too, why it was such a big miss by company or whoever. I don't know if the board had their hand in this or what, but to not start him against Inter the other day, um, is that starting Mueller right now, the way he's going out on such a sour note and the way that his storied career at Bayern Munich is coming to an end, I think playing him just gives the entire team that bolt of electricity, just it jolts the entire team. And that's obviously why you have to play him right now. You have to just read the room, in my opinion, if you're company. He Mueller inspires the team. He inspires these guys. They're all gonna want to join together and play for him. And honestly, like especially in the Champions League, that stuff does matter. It just does. The Champions League, at this point in the Champions League, every team that's left is really good, and you're gonna need a little bit of luck. You're gonna need a little bit of magic, and that's just what Mueller is at this point.
I agree. Yeah. There's certain times in seasons you need to hold on to something that is an intangible, something you can't tactically prep for, you can't really see necessarily. I mean, you can see Muller's greatness, but yeah, it's just a vibe or kind of a connection or something that you got going on with certain guys and certain things in a team. So I do think it's a little bit lost on company and Bayern, the directors, whatever you want to say. As you've mentioned, for not playing him as much as they maybe should have, and that could be something they look back on in the year and say, yeah, maybe we should have, especially in his last year. It's tough, it's never easy when a guy is getting up there in age. He doesn't want to lay down. You don't want to just lay him down yourself as a manager and as a team. And it's not like he's a god level performer either. Obviously, he's got the talent, but he's not Musiala in his peak, So it's like I don't know. It's tough, is all I'll say.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not black and white. That's for sure. Obviously, with Musiala too, it's like Byron was trying to appease him at every corner, playing him the 10 every match, playing him every match because they were in that contract extension negotiation phase for so much of this season. So I get that. But the thing is, like, you just got to rotate him. And I'm not saying lack of rotation is what caused Jamal Musiala's season-ending injury, but it certainly didn't help. So, looking at this match now, as we think about how the match kind of started, Bayern was pretty dominant, really in that whole first half, maybe up until the very end of that first half. Bayern was looking good. They were creating chances left and right, and honestly, Muller himself was the one doing most of the chance creation. I mean, Muller was laying up beautiful balls to Olise, Kane, maybe Zane once or twice, but nobody could really finish. And that was really to their detriment, to Bayern's detriment in that first half, was just nobody could finish. Um, Kane, I think, sprained ankle Kane, just playing through it at this point. Clearly, I think it's affecting him. I mean, he's not moving as well as he should. He doesn't have that finishing touch this match and against Inter. I'm not saying he's like lost it for a while, but since that sprained ankle, basically, he just hasn't had that finishing touch. And um, we saw, really racking my brain, the best chances I can remember in that first half. Stanisic had a wide open header, just missed it, didn't even put it on target. He wasn't really being marked. I think it was right off of a corner or a set piece or something. And then there was this awesome play actually that started by a slide tackle from Kim that looked like, I think Kim like lost the ball to start it off and then got back and slide tackled it out, and then Kane dropped way deep, found the ball and laid up a beautiful pass to Olise in transition off of a counter, and Olise kind of, I think, took his first touch a little too wide instead of dribbling in towards the box, and then ended up with not like a clear straight angle at the net and shot it into the side of the net. Those were really two golden opportunities that were squandered, but there were a number of smaller chances that Bayern missed as well.
Yeah, I know the Elise one I was frustrated at the time. It was one of those halves again where you see Bayern controlling the match. Dortmund didn't seem like they were doing much at all. And I was feeling confident about Bayern because they were looking good, and I just knew a goal was coming at some point. And technically, I was correct in thinking that. But yeah, it's always frustrating when you are controlling the match, playing well, but you don't have anything to show for it. So yeah, it's definitely probably the reason that it ended the way it did because they didn't bag a goal in the first half.
Yeah, those missed chances in the first half come back to bite you, especially. when a guy like Mueller is creating so many of them, like I can just imagine how electric it would have been if somebody would have scored off of a Mueller chance, or if Mueller himself would have scored. I mean, he took a couple shots from distance here and there that he missed, but would have been crazy if he would have scored something like that. But yeah, I mean, this was kind of how I expected Dortmund to start off the match at the Allianz Arena on the road under Niko Kovac. Kovac is more of a like disciplined coach who likes his structure and likes to play safer, a little bit more defensively, which is interesting for one because Nuri Sahin was almost the opposite of that. He was trying to push Dortmund into that more like modern, aggressive style of football that maybe was more similar to what they played under Klopp. And then, yeah, prior to Zahin, they were playing this defensive style again. So it's like, I think that's a problem. One of Dortmund's bigger problems right now is just their lack of identity. They're kind of ping-ponging between different coaches who have these different styles. But I guess enough about Dortmund. They played their game in the first half, and then it was clear that once that second half started, um, they were going to you know kind of change their tune a little bit. They came out in the second half. Dortmund did with a lot more fire and just a lot more aggression, and they were more risky. They were taking more chances. I think that was probably the plan. I think they went into halftime and said, "All right, we executed our plan in that first half. We let Bayern maybe tire themselves out a little bit, miss their chances, and now we're gonna kind of step it up a little bit."
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I selfishly, from a Chelsea perspective, I was surprised they weren't playing Carney from the start. I actually thought he was one of their lone bright spots, not only in the Champions League, but just lately in general for them. So that to me was interesting. I don't know. They are just a weird team to me every time I watch them. As you kind of said, they go between styles. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they know what they're doing at all times. What's their place even in the league right now?
Eighth, I believe, but I'll have to check if that is the same after. Yep, that's the same after this match day. Yep. So they
Yeah, they
they
just
they're
remind me
still in
of
eighth.
they remind me of AC Milan.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're like dynamite in the Champions League. Obviously, they got absolutely thrashed by best coach in the world, Hansi Flick's Barcelona. But I mean, they're into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and like this was similar to last year. They were scuffling in the league and made it to the Champions League final. Um, so yeah, but I agree with you. Interesting lineup. By Kovac there. I think just with, Dortmund having the Champions League week as well, sandwiching this match in between their Barcelona matches, I'm sure they're trying to rest players strategically because I think Carney has done enough to deserve a start. I mean, he's definitely been one of their brighter players lately. Um, and yeah, also starting Nicolas Zula, I thought was interesting. I wasn't expecting that one, but yeah, the dam finally broke in the 48th minute. Bayer scored that first goal for Dortmund off of the horrible mistake, which I mentioned by Kim. And I'm 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 gonna say this with the caveat again that the guy's playing injured, and I respect his mentality for fighting through it. But uh, this, it looked like he couldn't jump. Basically, a ball flies in, and Bayer gets this header, just jumps right over Kim. Kim positions himself poorly. He doesn't, and there's like a million things he could have done. He could have just went to clear it. He could have like bodied into Bayer. He could have just timed a jump correctly, but he did none of that and almost just watched the ball go over his head right into Bayer, who kind of heads it down in between Urbeg's legs there. And yeah, it's 1-0 at that point, and that was the lowest point of the match for me at least.
Yeah, I was minutes out from the German beer hall at this point, watching on my phone as I'm strolling down the beautiful streets of Milwaukee. And as you said, it was like Kim either couldn't jump or I don't know. Sometimes guys get in those weird positionings where the guy behind him does just come in hot and he has more leverage. So I get that perspective of it, but just did seem like you got to do better. And ultimately a nice goal for Dortmund, but so frustrating when you dominate that first half and then shortly in the second half give up that goal.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it was frustrating because it was almost like I was getting PTSD war flashbacks from the Inter match. Bayern controlled so much of that match, and then Inter, ends up scoring first and then coming away with the victory in that one at home. So I was thinking, oh man, is this going to be one of those matches? And I was of the opinion too, like going into halftime, that Bayern's for sure going to score. They're going to score multiple goals just because of how they were playing. I thought that they were um, going to score those goals, and it did happen, obviously. But after this roller coaster of events there, and yeah, it's kind of tough with Kim right now because, like I said, he just makes so many costly mistakes. I saw today that he this season has made 6 mistakes that have led to goals. And I mean, last year in the Champions League against Madrid, he was filling in for an injured Delict and had 2 mistakes that led to goals. One of them was a penalty when there were multiple players behind him, and the other one was just horrible positioning on Vinny, I believe, when Kroos slotted that pass through. And it's like there's so many mistakes that you can make where I have forgiveness for it. And I I'm not saying I hope Bayern goes and sells him tomorrow, but I'm saying I do hope that Bayern gets another center back that can challenge for that starting role.
Sorry, yeah, I was just checking this shot on 18 here from Rory. Looks like
Anything
he's
good?
probably going to win it. He's probably just going to win. He's up one, so it's unfortunate for all those that are sick in the head and like seeing guys lose and fail. But yeah, I would agree with getting somebody else for sure. I do think Kim will ultimately be fine. This injury stuff, you really can't judge until a lot of that is out of the picture. Simply what it is. When you have repeat injuries over and over, whether you're playing through them or not, it's just you're not 100%. So it's just tough in that way. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'm maybe a little bit more positive on Kim, but at the same time, then I guess when you do make a lot of mistakes, there's no denying that.
There's no denying it. And shortly after, Kim got yanked. I don't think it was because of that mistake. I think this was probably the plan all along, just because we have to deal with those injuries and we got Inter again. And I'm sure company's going to want to start Kim on Wednesday against Inter. But in the 54th minute, we saw Guerrero come on and Kim come off. And I believe what kind of happened then was Stanisic actually like slid into that center back role, and Guerrero kind of played that like aggressive left back position. And really, what this did was just make the lineup a lot more aggressive or a lot more offensive minded. So, um, hey, you can say that worked. You can definitely
I
say
thought it was
that
the right move at the
that
time.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in the 64th minute, we saw um, uh, Alexander Pavlovich and Serge Gnabry come on for Leroy Sané and Leon Goretzka. I thought these were good subs as well. I wasn't sure if they would affect the match or not. Turns out they did affect the match a lot, all these subs. Um, Interesting to see Pavlovich back. This is his first match back in the squad since, God, I don't even know, January maybe. Um, but yeah, he needs to like still work his way back to fitness. He doesn't seem like he's fit yet. He didn't seem like he was bad by any stretch of the imagination, I didn't think, but he just doesn't look like himself. And honestly, I don't know if he's gonna look like himself the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not much from me to comment on him in this match. I think we've talked about it a lot, and have said the same things over and over. So it's one of those where you're probably just gonna again look to next year and see what you got at that point. I'm not concerned by any means.
Yeah, agreed. But then we saw finally in the 65th minute, Bayern Munich got their first goal. The subs kind of doing some work here. Serge Gnabry, who looks like a new man now. I don't know what's gotten into this guy, but he looks so much more fit and just hungry and athletic than he has in a really long time. I mean, he's looked decent coming on as a sub lately, I've thought, but like this was even another step up from that. Closer to how we saw him in the beginning of the season when he was just lighting the world on fire. But yeah, we saw Serge Gnabry make a nice move there, and find Thomas Muller in the box, obviously in the right place at the right time, like Thomas Muller always is. And Thomas Muller, unselfishly just slides the ball over to Rafa Guerrero. I mean, if you want to stick with the Masters theme, he puts it on a tee for Guerrero, who just swings away and buries the shot. So instant impact from the subs there, and Bayern is back. It's 1-1 at this point.
Yeah, according to some, it's all about Gnabry's motivation from behind the scenes in the internet, just getting mad at him, and that's the only reason why he's more lean and fit now. So, credit to the internet for that. Certainly, there's no cockiness involved at all by the internet, thinking that they are the gods of the soccer world. But yeah, credit to Vincent for the subs. Credit to Guerrero for a great shot. It was really beautiful, that goal, honestly, especially at the beer hall. Everybody goes nuts. They bring out the chants as they always do. And it seemed like Bayern, they finally break through. And from there, it was just going to be building and building and building and doing better. And we did actually see that happen then.
Yeah, I mean Bayern was shot out of a cannon from there. Obviously powered by the chants from the beer hall that are just like the chants in the stadium. Obviously powered by your presence in the beer hall there. But yeah, in the 69th minute we saw the Serge Gnabry goal for the ages. I mean Serge Gnabry on this goal just turned into like Messi or someone. I don't even know. He dribbled through probably four guys and just fired off a shot, a perfect shot, a rocket of a shot. And I mean, yeah, this is like London Serge Gnabry. This is like 2020, 2021 Champions League Serge Gnabry back in the flesh with how he played on this goal, and it was just an awesome goal.
Agreed. That goal was just as electric as Guerrero's, probably more. Crowd definitely went more nuts. Super happy for Serge. And not happy for Rory here as he takes his second shot on 18. Oh, into the bunker, folks. We are alive. We have a chance at a choke from Rory. We are in the bunker. If you don't like golf, I'm so sorry that you have to listen to this. But yes, back to Serge, who I like a lot more than Rory McIlroy. Brilliant sub, brilliant man. And yeah, just ultimately very happy, as I said, because in that moment too, it felt so big. It felt like Bayern won the league, basically being up 2-1 there. Maybe it's because I was caught up in the atmosphere, but the beer's flowing, and yeah, I probably did get caught up a little bit.
No, I was gonna say that too. I thought, well, when he scored that goal, I thought that's game and essentially that's league. Um, so I can only imagine what the atmosphere would have been like in the beer hall because man, I love that place. I love those guys down there. That's just so much fun. It's a great way to get acclimated to the sport and to become a fan as well. So if you're in Milwaukee, head down to the old German beer hall one of these days and catch a game and just embrace yourself, embrace the community, brace yourself by embracing the community, I guess, for that one. See if you can figure that one out. And then, unfortunately, the feeling did not last long because in the 75th minute, um, we got the second Dortmund goal and um, the equalizer. So yeah, we did see that goal from Anton there that was just created off this mass chaos happening from a corner, as you see sometimes off of corners. I don't know how it even got started, but eventually you saw Garassi bodying into Eric Dyer, trying a Ronaldo bicycle kick, and to be fair, Urbig made a really good save off of that shot because that was a nice shot by Garassi there. But the ball bounces back out. Bayern's defense decides not to defend the second shot, and Anton gets that second goal for Dortmund right there, equalizes things. And really, after that, just chaos ensues.
All the credit in the world to Grassi on that. When I kept looking back at the replay, it was insane how he was able to control his body and do so well in that moment. Oh, what a shot out of the sand from Rory. But yeah, Garassi really was special there in order to keep the play alive for his team. And yes, it was a mess. Bayern's got to do better to get the ball cleared for sure. It can be so chaotic when it gets tight like that. So I don't know. It's tough to like blame any one person. You can maybe blame effort a little bit, but sometimes you also have to tip your cap to the guys that score the goal.
Yeah, I mean, there were probably about four guys that could have cleared that on Bayern there. So tough, definitely tough to blame one person. But yeah, like I said, though, the game from there just was chaotic. It was so open. It was so unorganized. Like you saw the start of the game, and um, Bayern was so organized in their control. And even Dortmund, who wasn't controlling the match, was so organized in their structure and their play. And it was just this buttoned up match. And then by the end of it, it was like, I don't know, shirts were off, metaphorically, I guess, if we're talking buttoned up. It was the opposite of that. Everything was going wild. I mean, either team could have probably scored two or three more goals after that. Um, I can't even remember who had all the chances. I know Olise had a couple more, and they didn't go well. Like I said, Olise was just poor on the day, unfortunately. I think he maybe is a little fatigued from all these matches, or maybe he's just a young player who lacks vision a little bit, lacks chemistry with this new team a little bit. But I'm not going to bury the guy because he's been so good all year. And Zane and Kane were also super underwhelming, I thought, just on the day.
Yeah, when was that Elise chance when he pretty much just had the keeper to beat and he went straight into his chest? I know we
That,
mentioned a chance in the first half that was side netting.
yeah, the chance you're talking about was, like I said, was one of those chances at the end when the game was just so
Yeah.
open. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that arguably was the best chance of the game, to
Oh
be
yeah.
honest. Um,
Well,
and of
Stanny's
course
header,
it's
I think, was up there.
fair. But
But yeah,
even so, then if you have the two best chances that both didn't go in, then it's even funnier. But yeah, if you're Elise, we talk about this so much, so maybe we should just put it to bed about wingers. Is there a good winger in the world? I mean, they're so inconsistent. So inconsistent. I mean, most players are, as we've discussed too. You're one of the top players if you're consistent. I guess Mo Salah, obviously is the cream of the crop in the right winger perspective. But yeah, Elise, I think he'll get there. He's still young and he's got a lot of talent.
yeah, and he's still great too, to be fair. But yeah, then 81st minute, Kingsley Coman comes on for Thomas Muller. Coman is back in the squad also for the first time since his mysterious foot injury that was just a knock. Oh wait, he's out for 2 months. So, that's classic Bayern with their injuries. But yeah, it was good to see him back in the squad as well. I wasn't sure if him or Pavlo would be in the squad at all. So good to see that. Like I said, either team could have scored. Something big's happening. You got your fingers up. Lay it on me.
Oh my God, he missed the putt. He missed the putt. He missed a 6-footer to win.
Your boy?
Rory missed it. We're
Mm,
going to extra holes. Rory McIlroy against Justin Rose.
wow.
Oh my goodness.
Is this America
Sorry,
versus England?
I just I don't know why. I again tangent, sorry for the listeners here, but something about Rory I just don't like, and I love that he's choked for the last 11 years to try to get another major. And the Masters is also the one that he doesn't have. So let me just say real quick too, respect to all the Germans out there. Bernard Langer, one of the all-time great players, two-time master winner. He's 67 now, still plays great at this tournament. So that'll maybe be a little something for you listeners out there if you're a German.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now, back to the match here. I think that it's maybe okay. I mean, it's definitely okay to come away with a draw because, like I said, end of the match, who knows what could have happened. So at the end of the day, it's okay. Mostly because Leverkusen also drew to Union Berlin, that pesky, pesky defensive Union Berlin side, who also drew Bayern Munich a few weeks ago. The match with Leverkusen was 0-0 this weekend. So I did want to talk about choking because, um, you know, it would be a massive choke if Bayern loses the league at this point. Five more matches left, got to win three of them. Anything can happen, you know. I'll say this: I was more sure last night in Phoenix, Arizona, watching the Milwaukee Brewers go into the ninth inning up 4-0, that the Brewers were going to win that game than I am about Bayern winning the league, and that's saying something because the Brewers gave up 5 runs in the bottom of the ninth inning and lost that game. Luckily, also went to the game on Friday and we saw a 7-0, like it's soccer, a 7-0 victory. So got a little bit of both sides on that coin, but yeah, it's Bayern's league to lose. That's what that tangent was about.
So many chokes. We got Rory choking, Bayern a potential choke down the line. Brewers actually choked again today. They were up
2
two to
nil.
nil.
Yeah, I saw that.
Um, and now they're
Bucks
down
almost
five
choked
to
today
two.
too. Yeah, jeez. Oh my gosh.
So, well, yeah, you got Pat Connaughton putting up 40 bombs, but I agree with you on Bayern, and it'll be interesting. I think they're fine. It seems like Leverkusen doesn't want the league either.
Yeah, Bayern Munich is looking good in the league. But now we go ahead and face Inter Milan on Wednesday in the Champions League. We go to San Siro down 1-2. And it's not impossible, definitely not impossible. A team like Bayern, I mean, we saw how many chances they made the last two matches. Um, they could definitely pull something together and win that match and advance, win by 2 goals, I should say, on for an aggregate advance, and move on in the Champions League. So that one's going to be a fun one to watch, but it is going to be tough.
Yeah, I still feel pretty okay about Bayern's chances. Everybody is talking about how, you know, Inter Milan is a fortress. They're so sound defensively and play so well at home. So we'll see. That will definitely be put to the test. And we'll see if that is true. Bayern, I think, just still have a lot of talent and can break through when they need to. So it's going to be kind of a battle of butting heads, if you will.
Yeah, agreed. And for the reasons we talked about before, Thomas Muller needs to start. He just does. I get company tried Guerrero. We saw how that worked, and then he tried Muller against Dortmund. So he saw both of those options, and Muller needs to start at the 10. Plain and simple. That's my number one most important key to this one.
I'd agree with that for sure. I would definitely looking forward to seeing Muller.
Yeah, so that's how we're looking there, and then afterwards we got Heidenheim in the Bundesliga. I realized I did not give out my match awards for the Bayern match, so let me just run down those quick, and I'll edit it in earlier in the episode. Man of the match, Thomas Muller. Robin, Serge Gnabry coming in, slicing and dicing. Underrated, Fireball, Rafa Guerrero, and defender, Josip Stanisic.
All fine. Man of the match for me is the second guy in the beer hall that was doing the chants in the video I posted. First guy, fine. Second guy that does the tiki taka thing,
Hmm.
just an electric man, pretty beefy, big guy in terms of muscular. He's somebody that you would not want to cross, especially if he downs a few beers, but really brings out the joy and energy in fans.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get back down there. And as the weather warms up here in Milwaukee, uh, hopping down to the beer garden as well for some matches. So into this Chelsea match, which was a disappointing 2-2 draw against Ipswich Town earlier today. So why don't we jump into that one?
Yeah, brutal match. Brutal match. You end up drawing. Sure. Did you come back, make it interesting? Fine. To me, that doesn't matter. That actually means nothing because it is so embarrassing to get 1 point off of a historically bad relegation team in Ipswich. They're the best of the three, but all three have been brutal, Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester. And Chelsea just let them dominate twice, essentially. And it's so frustrating, because there's so much that comes out of it too that just screams Chelsea are young and stupid and have zero balls, and Maresca doesn't have balls and doesn't know what to do. And it sounds like they're blaming the fans and the environment, and all this just screams. I don't know what it screams, but it's not good. It's not what Chelsea stand for in a lot of ways, especially considering they're pretty recent Champions League champs, in 2021. So I don't know, a lot going on in terms of the match itself, just poor.
Yeah, and on a plane during this match or heading to the airport. So I didn't catch this match. I saw some of the highlights, not really the full highlights. So I won't be able to go into detail about it. I'll let you take care of any details you want to talk about. But just overall, I've been so disappointed with Chelsea lately. I've been so disappointed with Enzo Maresca, disappointed with a lot of the players. I mentioned it a few episodes ago, but I do not think Enzo Maresca is the right manager for this project. Um, so I mean, I'm still nothing about this game changed my mind. I'll just say that.
It's tough. If I have to see another press conference where Maresca talks about, oh, first 20 minutes, we played great, la-di-da-di-da. If we would have just made a chance, fine, whatever. Then don't concede after that and then lose all ability to play as a team, and that to me is what's so frustrating. Oh, it's frustrating as Rose misses his birdie putt. Looks like Rory's going to win it all, but it's so maddening to hear that over and over and over again. Is it true? Fine. But none of the chances were that incredible either. He acts like they just dominate all these teams because they have more shots. No, none of your shots are even on target. So, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's almost the worst of both worlds with a lot of how I'm interpreting what I've seen from Enzo Maresca in Chelsea lately. He's like a lot of times trying to be so possession based and passive, but if you are going to do that, you have to be so solid defensively that you're just not going to concede. And so I'm saying you get the worst of both worlds because you're playing without aggression or intensity, a lot of sideways, backwards passing. So you're not scoring there, but you're also conceding. It's like I would rather just go hungry, just go wild and electric. Obviously have some structure and some shape, but like put more effort into progressing the ball forward and creating things in the attack, especially against a team like Ipswich, who you should have better attackers than. You should be able to make something happen against them. And this is how I felt watching the Conference League match as well, first half. Um, I was like, what are you doing? You have the ball with so much space in the midfield and you're just passing it back. You're taking it backwards. And so obviously that's going to work in the Conference League because everything is going to work in a lot of these Conference League matches. But when you get into the Premier League, it's like utilize the talent of these players that you have. You have guys like Nico who are so good at leading the press. You have guys like Palmer who, I mean, last season and beginning of this season looked like one of the most electric players in the Premier League. You have guys like Neto who have a lot of pace, whatever. Sancho can obviously showed today has something left in the tank or can do something at least. I just think you got to utilize those things because if you're not, um, if you're not, and then you're gonna concede two goals right away, like what's the point?
Yeah, a lot of what you said too about, playing more forward and aggressive, and it's tough. Like, I've talked about so many times about how I think you need to buy into being this young, aggressive, fun team, and Chelsea are not that at all. They used to be at the beginning of this year and end of last. I do just think you need to be more aggressive. Like, even if you play the way they are, you need to take more risks in passing in tight spaces, and you can't just lollygag around the pitch and say that you're good because you own possession. And I don't know. It's frustrating watching this team. It really is. The goals they concede are so poor defensively. It's you need an overhaul. I don't trust any of the center backs or right and left backs outside of Reece James, who, by the way, isn't a right back according to Maresca. So therefore, I don't trust anybody on the back line, not even Cucurella at this point. He's more of like an attacker. So I don't know. It's in terms of like what I envision too. I've said I'm not even Maresca out because I don't think you can destroy what Chelsea are trying to build, which sucks. Like, I don't think you can again fire a coach
I mean, they did it last year. I know.
I know, but I think it would just be so crazy. Like the message you're sending would be so insane, especially when you got all the players that are publicly backing Maresca. I mean, they publicly talk all the time about how much they learn from him. Oh my gosh, he's teaching us so much. We're growing. He's amazing, top manager. So like, then you're gonna turn around and fire him? I don't know. I don't think your opinion is bad. I just think optically and strategically, it would be such a kick in your own balls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I think they need to essentially find another manager and have that manager like ready to go and bought in before sacking Maresca if they were to do that. I think that yeah, they I just think they need somebody with a different philosophy, with a different mentality, with a different play style, all of it. I don't think Enzo's anything about Enzo fits this Chelsea team or this Chelsea project right now. And I'm not saying, I hate the guy's guts. I texted you that earlier. I think maybe he could fit in somewhere else just fine. But I don't know. I don't think it's for this Chelsea team. I think they need to be playing differently against most competition, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just, in my short too, after it's tough to find the words at this point. As I'm seeing Rory walk into the clubhouse in tears here, and it just makes me even more mad. But it's frustrating. It's just the word I'm gonna keep saying, and they basically need to win out is what needs to happen. And it's crazy. Like I was texting you about the EPL. Nobody wants Champions League except for, I guess, Newcastle, who's been playing well, and they still have a game in hand. They're essentially five up on us. But Chelsea, I think if they win out, they'd make it probably because then Forest would, I think, actually be out because we'd beat Forest in that scenario. I don't know. It's bleak. It's bleak. They could even go down worse, is the thing too. They play Fulham, who's like six back, so they could instantly be ahead of us if they beat us. Everton's been looking better. They drew Arsenal, didn't they, a couple weeks ago? And then
They
Everton
did.
just beat
They,
somebody.
they
Oh, they beat
did.
Forest.
They did draw Arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just beat Forest this weekend. So none of these teams are walking the park, so it's gonna be mighty, mighty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Premier League table. I'll pull it up again so I don't say something wrong here. But it's very similar to the Bundesliga in that where uh, teams who are playing for Europe, I'll say at least for the Premier League, we're talking third through seventh is separated by 3 points. I mean, that's one match. That's insane right now. Um, and then you got, yeah, I mean, Fulham is a little bit below Villa, but they have a game in hand. And Arsenal is obviously Arsenal's 6 points ahead of Forest, and Liverpool is uh, running away, dancing around with the league title, basically. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to play for, and that's the thing too. Like with with Bayern in the Bundesliga and any league ever at this point in the season, so many teams. I mean, you have teams that are fighting to not get relegated. You have teams that are fighting for European football, teams that are fighting for Champions League, teams that are fighting for league titles. So, like, almost everybody is in dire need of something. Almost everybody is playing for something at this point. So, this point of the season, too, like, people are being rested for Champions League, people are out injured. It's like, it's so unpredictable and, yeah, just like anything can happen in these like stretch matches here.
I agree with what you're saying. I will say the only part that I slightly disagree with is it's against Chelsea in the fact that some of these teams aren't playing for anything, which does hurt Chelsea. Ipswich are playing for nothing, already relegated. Everton will be the same. They're not going to be relegated. Fulham are technically playing for Europe. Forest will be playing for Europe. Newcastle playing for Europe. Liverpool, depending on what happens the next few weeks, will either be playing for nothing as they've wrapped it up or potentially lifting the trophy at Stamford Bridge, which would really suck. But yeah, those are kind of the interesting things. Sorry, I also got sidetracked as I see a tweet from a guy that a Stockport County fan actually that says Clippers Bucks finals, which is an absurd take. You'd love that as a Kawhi and Bucks fan, but man, talk about from the clouds.
All right, well, I gotta say, I don't want to like be ultra hipster here, but I predicted that finals like, and obviously it doesn't matter at all because this is not the same season, but I predicted that finals like 3 years in a row, like 5 or so years ago, like when Kawhi joined the Clippers. That was the final I was sure was gonna happen. I've never bet on sports in my life except for that one year. I bet that that was gonna be the finals. It didn't
I
happen.
mean, would be insane. I think they're both five seeds, but yeah, that's the thing about sports is whether it's NBA, EPL, Bundesliga, pickleball, it's kind of just a bunch of random stuff that comes together at times.
Especially
And that's what
pickleball.
makes it special. That is what makes it special. So trust me, I've been in some pickleball leagues. Things get dicey. So
Yeah, well, do you have any closing thoughts on Chelsea here? Like I said, I didn't even catch the match, so I don't have much to say except I think there needs to be a lot of change at Chelsea Football Club.
I would say, Conference League Thursday, you got to win that in terms of the whole thing. You got to win the whole thing because that might be your ticket to Europe if you keep falling in the league. And then my message to the fans, if you're listening, is, a lot of these Sunday matches, as the weather gets warmer here as well, it's a great time to slot in some pickleball on those mornings.
That's a really good message to fans. Yeah, I think that will about do it for us here at Always Bayern Chelsea with this rip-roaring episode, video episode. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just got loads and loads of coverage coming. I mean, we got European football this week, Champions League quarterfinals, Conference League quarterfinals. It doesn't get a whole lot bigger than that on the grand stage of things. When you couple that with these league titles and just leagues coming to a close here, it does not get better. So stick with us, subscribe, um, and that might do it for me. Over and out.
Did you hit Mia San Mia there? Or?
Oh, I was gonna hit a Mia San Mia. I didn't know if you had anything else to say, but I'll hit it with
Oh,
the
okay.
final closing Mia San Mia.
Fair enough. Up the Chelsea.